Hey everyone, is this on? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's on. Hey everyone, SnakeOnix here. Welcome back to another video. Today, we will be reacting to, yes, I haven't done this in a while, and guess what? I got a new setup for it. So, yeah, the previous one had to be done on 2 devices for a better look. This one doesn't, so, without further ado, let's watch Detective Void End of Death Season 2. Which Detective Void, if this was the whole thing a season, why didn't you say so? Anyways, let's do them. 3, 2, 1, play. Ooh, I love the animation. Gets me every time.
110 years have passed since death disappeared. People began to resolve conflicts in a completely different manner. No one else was afraid of being killed or inflicting mortal wounds on the enemy. On the contrary, everyone only dreamed of dying. But since there was nothing to lose, only one sideways glance was enough to start a random fight out of nowhere. Agent Alexander Durango was no exception. That evening, he went out to a local bar to seek out a bit of adventure. After drinking a little, he began to look around in search of a suitable victim for beating. He eventually picked out a guy who apparently had come to the bar for the same purpose. They both realized that they needed the exact same thing, to release their pent-up anger on the first person they met. The men got up from their seats, rolled up their sleeves, and walked towards each other. Without further ado, they began to swing their fists chaotically, delivering strong and painful blows. When his opponent started to use the bar stools, Alex knew it was time to get out his knife. His challenging sparring partner had just swung a chair at the agent, conveniently opening his heart to the blow. Alex plunged the knife into the left side of the man's chest in a sharp motion. None of those who were present so much as twitched. No one was going to call an ambulance either. Everyone knew that the affected person would cough up a little blood.
Okay, no, so how would you guys feel if you were immortal? Like, you could never die, never age. Like, it would be a very interesting scenario.
After which he would sit at the bar and finish his drink. But that was not what happened. Instead, the guy stopped breathing, and his heart stopped forever. The news quickly spread through the local media. The Foundation apprehended the agent, seized his murder weapon, and administered amnestics to all the witnesses. The knife was assigned the number SCP-4514. It turned out to be the only anomalous object capable of killing in a world without death. I'll tell you later where this knife originated, but to start off, I'd like to discuss who'd even come up with the idea of creating Project Damarung, which even the O5 High Council had no knowledge of. That is except for one of its members, 4. He took his position back in 2018. 4 years before his appointment in 2014, he lost 3 people close to him: a brother, a nephew, and a mentor. This broke 4.
I don't care. Can you just leave? I'm making a video.
So much that he firmly decided to find a solution and stop death. Not only his own, but that of those close to him, but not the death of all living beings. When Anthony Michaels shot death and everything went wrong, 4 had, in every possible way, concealed his project and interfered with research. As soon as Dr. Emily Young came out of her coma, orders were given to destroy all evidence. Her colleague, Jared Hellberg, refused to help Emily in this and left. Since then, they've not seen each other for more than 100 years. In 2030, Anthony's sister Joyce, as well as Emily and Jared, meet again with a single goal in mind: to get Tony, and also to fix all the things that they had done. Emily was fed up with life, and regretted not using the SCP-4514 knife while experimenting with it. Anthony, for his part, was quite comfortable in the Garden of the Dead. He regularly talked to the giant teddy bear, and also wielded a red-handled hoe that he found there in the daisy field. In order to get Tony back, Jared and Emily once again came up with an ingenious plan that, at first glance, looked completely idiotic. His sister Joyce was supposed to go after Tony. Jared and Emily put Joyce's mind into a mechanical body from Anderson Robotics. Even before the destruction of death, this company was engaged in the production of robotic bodies that could be combined with human souls. Joyce was then half-killed with SCP-3448, an anomalous tomograph, which split her consciousness into 4 identical parts. Next, according to their plan, the consciousness of the brother and sister was to unite in a mechanical body, after which they would have to destroy the robotic flesh. No matter what dimension the robot body's in, after significant damage, it automatically moves to the purgatory for robots along with the consciousness. This is a foggy forest that anyone can enter through a special portal located in Forest Park in Portland, Oregon. However, things didn't quite go according to plan. At first, the 4 copies of Joyce wandered around the hospital, which apparently begins the Garden of Death. For some time, they walked through a constantly changing space, with corridors disappearing and reappearing. Then Joyce wandered into the room, where a body was lying on the bed next to the heart monitor, twitching a little. Sometime later, Joyce finally met her brother after 100 years of separation. Walking slowly through the Garden of Death,
ads.
Tony admitted that he was not going to return at all. He himself began to turn into some kind of death, and the garden hoe helped him in this regard. He buried human remains with it. When Tony managed to bury these bones, a person died in the real world, and a clearing of daisies grew on their grave in the Garden of Death. But the hoe broke, so no one's died on—
So wait. Tony became the new death. Well, so I guess life was restored until he didn't get a new scythe or something? Or hoe, whatever he needs to use?
Earth for more than 100 years. Well, almost nobody. Joyce couldn't accept her brother's wish until the teddy bear convinced her. The giant toy declared that any life story must end. Otherwise, everything loses its meaning. In the end, Joyce agreed to help Tony. However, number 4 of the O5 Council did not want to lose his immortality. He dispatched Mobile Task Force Red Right Hand to Site 2718, where Project Damarung was based. Fortunately, Jared and Emily managed to escape by that time. So the arriving fighters found only SCP-3448, inside of which lay the decomposed body of Tony and the exoskeleton from Anderson Robotics that had been used for Joyce. On the screen, they saw Tony walking with a knife and hoe, and Joyce with a stethoscope. Another item that turned out to be an important arbiter of fate was Joyce's headphones, which were now in the hands of Emily, who had fled from the laboratory. She was on her way to a nursing home where Henry Michaels, father to Tony, Joyce, and Eric, was. The man had long since been tired of life. Eric, by the way, is the captain of MTF Iota 10, which was assigned to catch Emily and Jared. The fighters were literally on Emily's heels. Dr. Young had a hard time persuading a medical worker to let her into the room where Henry Michaels was.
No.
Why doesn't every home in the US have solar panels?
No one cares.
The number one reason is not about sunlight.
Soon, the captain of Iota 10 broke into the same chamber, and going inside, he found the body of his lifeless father. When Eric checked the bathroom, he found Emily's body. She was wearing Joyce's headphones. At last, Henry Michaels and Emily Young had received their long-awaited peace. But how did Tony and Joyce manage to give them death? Now's the time in which we recall that the anomalous SCP-4514 knife exists. Agent Alexander Durango had, once upon a time, received it from his friend, Agent Anthony Michaels, who had gotten the weapon as a gift from his father. I guess a lot of things that belonged to Tony became murderous in a world without death. And the reason here is that Tony himself became the new incarnation of death after the murder of his predecessor. Only in the role of death he was still inexperienced, and therefore he failed the first 100 years. Once in the Garden of Death and reunited with her brother, Joyce acquired a similar property. Her old headphones, similar to Tony's knife, have shown the ability to kill as well, as if there's still death in the world. But you know what the most off-putting part of this story is? What Tony went to the Garden of Death for never actually happened. Henry Michaels did not go camping. Despite immortality, he physically could not walk several miles, even in 100 years. The only one who achieved their goals was 4. But this most likely won't be for long. The mechanics of the underworld remain the biggest mystery here.
What do you mean?
The place where death lived is listed in the Foundation documents as LOI 3448. And this is not a place at all in the physical sense, but rather a conceptual representation of the afterlife. The commonly known perceptions do not exactly fit here. The image on SCP-3448 CT scanner was obtained solely through the transformations of Tony's consciousness signals and later Joyce's. However, a certain topology of this conceptual area can still be identified. In the part that looks like a hospital, the souls of people are in a state of agony before death. When death decided that it was time for them to die, it killed them and took them away with it. It buried the bodies in the garden, giving them eternal rest, and daisies grew at the burial site. Insects most likely are not there. However, Tony was an uninvited guest, and the abundance of biting creatures appeared solely to force Tony to leave. However, this data contradicts some other anomalies known to the Foundation. most notably Corbenic. It's believed that Corbenic is the afterlife. It's also home to a dangerous rival organization called the Three Moons Initiative. But let's not forget that Tony was in a state of semi-death, not death. So this nice garden is just a transit zone. Most likely, after death buries the dead, they move on to the next stage, to Corbenic. And no agent has ever managed to get there. And yet I'm still interested in something else. How do you think the Foundation managed to turn back time? And somehow we don't even suspect that we've already experienced the future without death.
Well, what actually is Corbenic? I've studied several afterlives, and I've never studied something called Corbenic. There you go. Oh, I misspelled Corbenic. Let's see. Nope. Okay, so not real in the afterlife. Okay, that's good to know. Because I've studied literally like tons, like at least 24 afterlives. So yeah, in my opinion, this only exists in the SCP universe. But what I'm actually more curious about is how the process of death works in the SCP universe. When a person dies, it is known there are gods, but are those gods trustable? But that's for another. Like, look, SCP. That SCP-343 holding the world. The battle to the death. A Cuphead. What the? Do you guys want me to? Wait. Hell. Oh wait, that's just me recording. Huh, that's actually interesting. I actually never knew that I could actually do that. That's awesome. So, back to my story. If it's making good enough 11, yes, can. So back to my story. It is known now that that's actually kind of funny. Oh my god, that's actually kind of funny. But no, serious. Now it is known that life itself has a part to play in all this. So in my opinion, I believe that not death should be alive, but neither should the living either. But anyways, I'm getting off track here. Do you guys want me to react to Distractable? Because I will, if you guys want me to. It's a Markiplier, Wade, and Barber series that I might, more like podcast, I might react to. I don't know. Is this if there's enough comments saying yes, I will react to it. But anyways, guys, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you want more Detective Void video. Oh, and get looking forward to my new song original coming out within a few months, in a month or two, like when it gets warmer, as well as my Persona series, which is gonna be coming out in less than the next month by March 22nd. Yeah, March 22nd. At least, like by then. Is it March 22nd actually? Yeah, it's March 22nd. I don't have my glasses on, so can't really see that well. But yeah, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get looking forward to 2 new series and a song coming out.